All right, welcome back to another episode of the Heroic Nation podcast. The Heroic Nation podcast is brought to you by Heroic Industries. Heroic Industries is the one-stop shop for all training, including physical health and performance for first responders and the tactical community. So we focus on fitness, nutrition, mindset, beliefs, all of those things, making sure that you have what you need to make progress towards your goals and have a very specific plan of action for you. So if you are interested or need help with any of that, then hit us up, and that's what we do. All right, so for today's podcast, I talked to a friend of mine who I met years ago at this point on another coaching program. His name's Ethan Buck. Ethan Buck is the owner, operator, founder of Iron Will PT. Iron Will PT is an online coaching brand dedicated to helping men reclaim their health, strength, and purpose. He has a transformation story that is absolutely killer. He lost over 100 pounds, was in a punk metal band, and did a lot of touring, and had a really bad lifestyle. Had overcame addiction and then gained a bunch of weight and overcame that, and then got to where he was with his coaching businesses, and has a really cool story of just progressing from one point to another. And as much as he's not in the tactical space, he's not a cop, he's not a firefighter, he's not in the military, his story and just how similar the things he went through is similar to what we all go through as men, and it's really a cool thing to listen to and talk to him about where he's from, what he's been through, and where he's going. So really cool stuff. Check it out. And like I said, hit us up if you need help with fitness, nutrition, mindset. Heroic Industries, that's what we do. And you can find Ethan at Iron Will PT on Instagram or website ironwillpt.com. Enjoy the show. Cool. I won't take that long, but yeah, I just wanted to touch base with you. Since doing this podcast, like I've just been going back through and thinking like, who are cool people that I enjoy talking to and what can I probably learn from them? And I'm like, if I find that interesting, then somebody else has to as well.
Yeah, I got it.
So what are you up to now?
Man, in the process of actually selling my house and moving to Bangkok, Thailand.
That's right. I couldn't remember what crazy place you said. I was like, I know he's moving, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
So how'd you land on that?
I've been planting that seed for my wife for 9 years now. So I went there and I did the whole Muay Thai camp thing for 6 weeks 9 years ago. And I remember thinking, man, I just need to make money online and come back and just live here and live this lifestyle. And I've been in that position for a long time. But my wife has some autoimmune issues, and she's, I don't know about living in a third world country with my issues and stuff. And so just nonchalantly planting that seed every once in a while. And then last summer, I told her, look, like her symptoms were so bad. Why don't you just don't stop working. So she took a whole like 4 months off of working and went back to work. And in that time, Thailand opened up this visa called the digital nomad visa. So if you have a certain amount of savings and make a certain amount of money online, you can apply for this visa. It's only $250 and you can stay there for up to 5 years. So I just in hopes, hey, Thailand opened up this visa. You're not working. Like we could do it. And she went back to work. She got bored. And week one, all of her symptoms came back. And she's like, you know what? Screw this. Let's just go to Thailand. I was like, what? So we did this instant like YouTube rabbit hole of cost of living and quality of life there and medical and all that stuff. And it just makes so much sense. So yeah, we made the decision.
Huh. Yeah. I've never been to Thailand. Is it really like a third world country? You spent a lot of time there, right? Or a decent amount of time there?
6 weeks. Yeah, technically, yes, but it's not like India where you just get diarrhea and there's garbage everywhere. It's actually nice. It's just the economy, right? The people are super respectful. It's very safe. It's a Buddhist country. And I'll tell you this, you can get like a luxury condo with a rooftop pool and view of the city and all these fancy amenities for $400 a month. You can live very comfortably, all expenses, insurance, travel, rent, food, all that stuff, bills for 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 bucks. Like
Yeah.
3K a month there, you're rolling. You're living like a king.
Huh. So you mentioned medical. Is the medical bad or what's it like? I should say.
It's actually, Bangkok has the fifth best hospital in the world. So it's actually very good. So most of them have studied and learned here in the States. So the medical's very good. I know a lot of people that live there, they go to just get their annual and they go to the hospital and they go see the doctor. They do a full panel, not just what your doctor does here, but they do a more in-depth panel plus imaging, and it's $70 with all this imaging and everything. And then you have a concierge takes you to like a hospital cafe and then they bring you the results in 45 minutes for $70. It's fantastic. So
Yeah, you don't have to wait for weeks to get answers and reschedules. And yeah.
yeah, I got some dental work done there. I got a root canal and two fillings, and they picked me up in a Mercedes and took me to a really nice facility and super professional. And all that work was like $250.
Holy crap. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask? So all your wife's autoimmune system or autoimmune stuff came back like the day after she came back or the week after she went back to work?
So she has Crohn's, rheumatoid, fibromyalgia, and small fiber neuropathy, and
Mhm.
also now Hashimoto's. Just a plethora of stuff.
Yeah.
Her whole family does. So she was feeling better, less symptoms, not completely gone, but just a lot less symptoms, more energy, less pain. And then as soon as she goes back to work, the work stress, being on her feet, just being busy, sleeping a little bit less, it just all came flying back at her.
Yeah, that's interesting that they've like Chris Kresser talks about that stuff a lot with autoimmune filling the bucket. So I would
Mm.
imagine if you have like several autoimmune issues, that bucket just gets filled up super quick. And then the whole game is like, how do you keep that bucket not full of inflammation and bullshit?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so you think like Thailand's gonna lessen that?
I think so. It's one, you're just happier there, and the climate is
Why do you think
tropical.
why do you think that is? Like you said,
Yeah, that's a great question. It's multifactorial. So it's tropical. It's known as the land of a thousand smiles. Now, I don't want to portray this as being like the perfect place, right? Because everywhere has its ups and downs. But it's tropical. People are genuinely very respectful and friendly there. Like I said, it's super safe. The food is fresher. You can eat like fresh seafood and fruit and vegetables every day, like from the sea and from the market. And it's just a lot more chill. I don't know if you've spent time outside of the States, but generally people don't have to work as much to make a living or just to get by. Whereas here, where my business has been doing pretty good for a while and I'm still like feeling the stress financially, it
yeah.
makes no sense. Like, if I can live for a third of the cost somewhere else and make the same money, it's just a no brainer. It's almost like a retirement plan.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Yeah, you talk about food. I think that's, and I honestly have no experience with this because the only time I've ever been out of the States, I was like 12 years old and I went to London, Canada, Ontario. And
Oh,
that's 30 minutes, 40 minutes outside Detroit. So I haven't been very far. But it seems like the food, when you talk about like fresh food, access to, I don't even want to say cleaner, maybe it is cleaner, but just food that rots and goes bad and has to be consumed quickly. And then it seems like that's the cycle of how food should work. It seems like health sometimes comes with it, like blue zones and stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there is a lot of pollution there, but you do have a lot of sun. And if you get out of the city, because we're considering staying in Bangkok for about 6 months to see if we want to stay there or in a smaller town down south. And
What's
those
the
smaller
population of Bangkok?
Bangkok's like 15 million.
Yeah, that's
It's,
us.
it's huge. But even then, Asian cities they're just different. They've got it dialed in. They're safe, they're clean, things operate really well. There's just something about Asians and how they do their cities. It just makes a lot more sense. Services function really well. Like all services are just genuinely professional. But yeah, when we're considering some towns down south, you've got the sea right there and less pollution. It's super chill. You almost feel almost like a hippie at that point, right? There's a lot of just, yeah, super chill people just living their lives and not really stressing about the busy life that we have here.
Yeah. Cool, man. That'll be one hell of an adventure. But you've done a lot of traveling, obviously, that you post all the time from like Eastern Europe and stuff like that. I guess let's kind of walk back through some of this stuff because I definitely want to talk about like your own personal transformation with things where you came from like living really unhealthy rock star lifestyle and then making that transition to where you are now. I'm sure you're sick and tired of talking about it, but I think I was thinking about it today. I was like, your story has so much impact, I feel like, for cops, especially, I think, listening to the like where you were, what you went through, and where you are now. Because sometimes we only see people through specific lenses and we don't get to see like, all right, this dude when he's in crisis, living a real shitty lifestyle, like looking like shit, like committing crimes, whatever. And then that's the end of the story for us. We don't see the other sides of things. So anyway, yeah, let's start back with like where you're from originally and then take us through your story.
Yeah, cool, cool. So I'm a half Brit. My mom's British, my dad's American. So I had the, I guess, opportunity or the luxury of growing up in two different countries. We constantly went back and forth from Oregon and Scotland and sometimes Birmingham, England, which is a shithole. It's like Baltimore. Don't
Home of
go
Black
there.
Sabbath, though.
Yeah, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, like great music, but
Yeah,
great music often comes from slums, no
right.
future towns. So that's Birmingham. But yeah, we lived pretty close to the Highlands and then Edinburgh when I was a teenager, and then also back and forth between Oregon. And yeah, I got into punk rock super young at 12 or 13, started skateboarding. And by 14, I had my first band. We put out our first like demo tape. And we had like spiky hair, studded leather jackets, bullet belts, like zipper pants, all that stuff. And that demo tape was called a shoulder. It's called the shoulder tapping demo, and we call it shoulder tapping because we were the kids outside of beer stores being like, "Hey, could you, if we give you $20, could you buy us a case?" And we'd go to the graveyard and get drunk and then run away from cops. When they showed up. We got chased by canines and everything when we were kids. Just
Yeah.
for, and we weren't like, obviously drinking underage was a crime, but we weren't like vandalizing anything. We were just getting drunk and getting hand jobs and stuff. But so I got to do my first European tour at 16 or 17.
Oh wow. What year?
Yeah. And that would have been like 96 or 7.
Because how old are you?
43. I'll be 44 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're like the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I joined a fairly well-known Scottish band in Edinburgh, and we did 32 days when I was like, I think my 18th birthday was on that tour. So I was 17 when we went. And that was nuts. And that really opened up this whole networking world of the underground kind of scene of punk rock, which is very international and intertwined. Today, it's not what it used to be. And we can get into that just because all the woke politics ruined that.
Oh,
But
dude, I don't understand that for anything. That's the biggest thing that confuses me with woke politics. It's that, dude, I know the Dropkick Murphys aren't like super hardcore punk, but they are so left. And they're like,
Mhm.
the working man, the union. I'm like, you are not seeing this. You are a political pawn for these people. And it's like this, the music's supposed to be the other way.
Yeah. It's the Marxism playbook. They infiltrate the subcultures first. And I really saw that in the as early as the late 90s, early 2000s, in places like some places in Sweden and Germany, especially. These ideologies really started to emerge in this what was supposed to be a rebellious culture, right? But anyhow, yeah, over the years, I really got into playing bands, touring. I lived in Prague, Czech Republic for 11 years. My whole objective then was just to be as punk as humanly possible. And I was really good at it. I was like sleeping in dumpsters, vomiting, getting in bar fights and going on tours. And for the style of punk that we played for quite a while, I was one of the main promoters. I set up gigs for bands, festivals, set up tours, drive tours, go on tours myself. So I was always partying. And of course, that rock and roll lifestyle leads to certain habits. The stereotypes are true. So we'd have to do, it sounds silly to say have to. You're on a tour for 6 weeks, you're playing every night, you got long drives. We just end up taking drugs and drinking every night and sleeping 2 or 3 hours propped up in the van. And I think what people don't understand is, oh, you got to see all these different countries and it must have been great. And like, it was fun, but we weren't sleeping. We'd take drugs just to perform. And then, yeah, something you have to remember is when you get to a new town or city or country, it's those people's night off. They're looking forward to seeing you. And you've done that 45 nights in a row. So you have to show up and entertain, and there's not a lot of money in that. So you're if you're lucky, you're sleeping on like someone's kitchen floor while there's 20 people around you doing cocaine and drinking all night. It's just it's not as luxury as people think. You don't get hotels, and you're lucky if you make gas money, right? And
Yeah.
then you get some food and free beer and drugs, and that's about it. So I realized that was killing me. So around 20, 27, 28, I started having these crazy panic attacks which I later figured out was AFib.
Oh,
And I didn't really realize that until this year, which is crazy. But so I was like, all right, I need to slow down. A lot of rock stars die at the age of 27. So maybe I need to slow down. So I slowed down on that. And then I just kind of swapped those habits for food. And I gained a ton of weight. I got up to 320 pounds and I just struggled with
from
that.
where were you before?
And I've always fluctuated. I was a chubby kid. When I got into the drugs and alcohol, I lost 70 pounds just living off of like alcohol calories pretty much.
Yeah. And starving
Um,
during the day and just drinking at night.
yeah, I was homeless periodically. You come back from tour, you don't have a job, nowhere to stay. I lived in the kitchen of a meth house and one time found myself eating dog food because I realized I hadn't eaten for a week and I had zero money. So I was like, yeah, this probably do something about this.
Right.
So that's when I really tried to slow down, but that took years to even dial in to slow down. But so I was at my lightest, I'm 6'3". So at my lightest, I was 165 as an adult, just skinny
Yeah.
fat. And then my heaviest 320. I lost 120 pounds or more, maybe. And then I got into Muay Thai. I even competed at 175. And then now I walk around at a reasonably lean 230. But yeah, lots of struggles along the way trying to dial in nutrition, fitness, health, mindset, lifestyle along the way. So I always tell people, man, if I can do all that, then you can lose like 20 pounds and go to the gym. Not a big deal.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's go back to that between 18 and 27. So you did 9, 10 years where you were living that like nomadic touring, kind of like crazy rock star-ish lifestyle. And like I remember every conversation we had at dinner at one of those Jason Phillips things. I can't
Mhm.
remember the kid's name that was sitting with us, but he was like, "Oh yeah, we were talking about metal, and you know a lot more about punk than I do. I'm way more of an old school heavy metal fan." But I can't remember what the kid said, but he was like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about?" And we were like, "Oh, we're talking about music." And we were both like, and he wanted to jump in the conversation. We're like, "Dude, you have no clue." And he was like, "Oh, try me." It was like, I think you said you toured with Bolt Thrower.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That was where I was like, I think you rattled off about 6 bands. I was like, I'd only heard of Bolt Thrower, but it was like, it was just funny. But while you were in that lifestyle, did you ever have, I know I shouldn't be doing this, or I know this isn't the path for me and I need to leave, but you just kept doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it sounds like I'm portraying like this really dark, terrible picture. But I will say that network and community of people back then, it was fantastic, man. It was fun. It was a lot of love, good connections, and real genuine people. So I didn't really have that a whole lot other than just sometimes, okay, I should probably slow down the drinking, but I was still really passionate about creating music and helping other bands get out there and tour and get their message out there and their talent. So I never really thought I needed to completely detach from this until I just kind of realized, look, this is really ruining my health. I have zero future in this, right? This is not going to pay my bills. And as you get older, you become maybe your views change a little bit. And at that same time, like me, I suppose maturing as a man, and then that whole kind of group of people, for the most part, really going like hard left extremist with their ways and views. Like this is probably just good time to separate. And also, I'd been there, done that. I'd played every show I wanted to play. I've created every song and album I wanted to create. There wasn't really more for me to offer. And I still get a lot of pushback from people who are still living that life. But the thing is, a lot of those guys are like 50 on the multiple medications. A lot of them have died. Some
Yeah.
of them even live at their parents' house and they haven't had a job in 20 years. Hey, man, I know you're not happy. You never took action to actually do anything else. This is the only thing you know, but there's so much more to explore in life. You don't have to be this one thing, this one person your whole life just because you did this thing. You don't have to let this past determine your future type of thing. So I've always been interested in exploring other realms of life. Life's too short to just be one person your whole life.
So when you're describing that stuff, and this is like not a one-to-one analogy by any means, but like you're talking about touring and being nomadic and sleeping on floors and partying all the time. And the first thing that jumps to my mind is college. You know what I mean? That's being an 18-year-old undergrad away from home for the first time. And for me, it was playing college sports. And it was like, that's like touring in some ways, where
Mhm.
it's like you're on a bus every weekend. These people own you. And when it's not season time, where it's like you're playing and competing and practicing and they own you for half of your day and the other half you're in school. And then the other little bit of time you have, you're trying to scrape by enough quarters to go buy some fucking McDonald's
Yeah,
double
yeah,
cheeseburgers. And it's, how am I supposed to be an athlete on $6 a week for worth of food money? And then how am I supposed to get somebody to buy me a bunch of beer on the weekend so I can get shit faced drunk and
yeah.
then throw up on somebody's floor? It's
Right.
like that is an experience that it's like it wasn't as, like I said, not a one-to-one analogy, but definitely some similarities there.
Yeah, it's that age, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's not common to see guys do that at that age, go through college and then maybe move on with life, but still try and live that way.
Yeah.
Whereas like punk rock and metal, they're still trying to live that way. And
The
they're not getting paid for it. It is having an effect on their life, but they are living out their dream. But that dream, it's like you had that, it's a teenage dream, it's a teenage fantasy for me at least. And while it was fun, I got into my 30s and I still had a fairly well-known band at the time. And I'm just like going on these tours, like, why am I doing this? I'm 35 and I'm broke and I'm on
yeah.
tour. And I don't really like these people. They're punishers. They try and talk to me and they're wasted. And I'm trying to like not to be around wasted people. Or they're trying to get us to play like benefit concerts for trans vegan bookshops or something. Like, what is this? Like, I don't need to do this. And
Yeah.
whatever your diet or your preference is, I don't care. Just leave me alone. I want to do my own thing. If we refuse to play the feminist bookstore vagina party fucking benefit concert, I'm like some terrible misogynist Nazi to those people. I'm like, I don't care about that. I just want to go have fun, then go home and sleep and
Yeah.
go to the gym tomorrow.
That says a lot, because anybody that's going to get pissed at you over that is just mad they didn't get their way, and they're
Yeah.
just going to throw names just because I'm pissed that I didn't get my way, so now I'm going to make you miserable. But I think the difference between what you're describing there with the rock star stuff, that lifestyle, is that with college the difference is there's an end date. You got 4 to 6 years of this, then
Mhm.
basically like all your friends are going to be gone, like everyone else is going to be growing up, and you just get the hell out of here. You got to leave at some point. With this, what you're talking about, like there's no end date unless you cut it off like you did.
Yeah. And I think honestly, there's nothing worse than seeing a middle-aged man squeeze into some skinny jeans with like a potato body on toothpicks, like getting drunk with a bunch of 20 something year olds. It's pathetic. It's
Yeah.
sad. And it's like you're just that weird old guy that behaves weird and cool. You had some cool bands, or maybe you still do, but you're still like hanging out with 20-year olds. And the other main thing too is we've formulated these ideologies and really groomed ourselves to think and be a certain way when we were teenagers. And a lot of those ideologies came from like bands who were teenagers in the 80s in like Britain, and we're doing it in like other countries or like 10, 20 years later. And then you're this 40-year-old guy that has the same ideologies as you did when you're a teenager. So honestly, my foundational principles are still reasonably the same, but some things just go crazy and you realize, okay, that was stupid. That was a pipe dream or whatever. But a lot of those folks, they're still living this teenage fantasy, and yeah, it's affecting their health. They're dying. They're not truly happy. They're completely unhealthy. So yeah, it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, I've listened to enough Jordan Peterson in the last few years where that's completely the Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah.
It's just refuse to grow up, refuse to transition. And I think what you're describing about yourself is like such a good like model of how to transition into other parts of what you want to do. And that's a big issue that we see with, like I saw at the end of college. A bunch of my buddies still drink all the time. And so if you binge drink on every weekend, 3 days a week in college, like that's the norm.
Mm.
But if you do that and you're not in college anymore, you're an alcoholic. So I saw some of my buddies just devolve into alcoholics with no real careers, and they get married and have shitty marriages and shitty kids, and they're still kind of shitty. So we see the same thing, and it's just a failure to transition into the next phase of life. And that's actually where we see, putting it in context for like my world a little bit, and probably yours too, honestly, where if you fail to transition and then out of especially with retirement out of law enforcement. And then we see the same thing with our vets, where it's like you do okay. Sean Ryan said this the other day on his podcast. It's like you do okay with all the bullshit and the trauma and everything that you're dealing with. Like you can manage it while you're on the bus. But once you get off the bus, you're alone. And if you're there to deal with all that shit by yourself, like that's when failure to transition in the next phase of life with a plan, like a lot of times you kill yourself.
Yeah, that's a real sad reality that a lot of veterans and I'm sure police officers deal with. And then let's leeway into entrepreneurship. Like, what a very lonely path that is, where you have to be ready to feel alone and be alone and get a lot of criticisms from people who maybe used to be really good friends or you thought were supportive of you. So I'm sure you're in the military and you've got this band of brothers, then you're out on your own. That's gone all of a sudden. Or you're a cop and you saw and dealt with a lot of shit and you retire and you're alone all of a sudden to deal with those things that maybe you haven't quite dealt with yet. Same thing where with me, it's not the same thing, of course. You're this band, this tribe of nomadic, like fun punk rock people. And they're like, you know what? This is fun. I love you guys. I got to split, do my own thing. And then all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur and nobody really cares or wants to support you in that journey. Yeah. It can be a dark path, but sometimes the dark path is the right one to take.
Yeah, you have to go through that transitionary process and like reinvent yourself. Like you said, I can't remember how you phrased it, but there's basically you don't have to be the same person. You
Mhm.
don't have to be the same person. You're allowed to change. And that's something that like we get very stuck in with roles and especially if you back yourself into a corner, I have to work this job. And I see that a lot of times with cop work where it's I have to put in 32 years. It's like well, you don't have to. This is just a way to make money. When it all boils down to it, you can find other things. You have other skill sets. You can market them. It's just you have to be able to see it and then make the move.
Yeah, it's almost like a limiting belief. Like
Completely.
I'm
Yeah.
this one person. But I'm sure I know they exist, but I'm sure like having a network or community of people who have done that. Like for me, I try and just associate with productive people who are working towards similar things as me. I'm sure after retirement as a cop veteran, it's really important to immerse yourself into those communities where you have similar background and stories, but you're now working on new things together. I'm sure it's important.
Yeah, and it's getting more prevalent. Like we're seeing more people just based on social media. Hey, this all these cops that are doing other things rather than just staying in the job for ever and ever and then retiring and dying, which is typically the story. But so that takes you to transitioning into getting in shape, getting fit. At what point, like in your like fitness journey, when you transitioned out of that old life into the new one, like where did you decide I'm going to be a coach? How'd that work?
Yeah. So after I lost over 100 pounds, I was that like skinny fat and I was just really struggling. The way I lost weight wasn't even that great. I just went to the extremes. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to white knuckle this shit. I'm tired of losing weight and regaining it. And I mean, I definitely caused some metabolic damage, lots of muscle loss and everything. So I was really stuck for a while because I just ended up being a smaller version of my previous fat self. My body composition was the same. I just fit into smaller clothes and I weighed less. I just looked and felt terrible. So that's when I hired my first trainer. And he'd actually seen me helping friends at the gym. I was always like showing them workouts and stuff. And he just planted that seed. He's like, dude, you're always showing your friends stuff. Like, why don't you just do this as a job? And I was like, whoa, I could do that. That's crazy. The drummer in my band at the time had this gig space. And I went on Craigslist and bought just a ton of equipment. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 or 10 o'clock, I would just do this group punk rock workout thing. And I called it Crust Fit. And, that being a gig space, I'd have to go in there and sweep up broken glass, beer cans, like sticky beer floor, and then set up like the workout for the day. And I had a tip jar on the stage. There was a stage where people would do box jumps and stuff off of.
Yeah.
And we did a workout and yeah, man, sometimes I'd make 60 bucks. I was like, oh, sweet. Awesome. So I started doing that while I was studying like some personal training certifications. And I was like, all right, this is happening. It's really interesting thinking back on it. Like, man, that was like such a Interesting start. And then finally, yeah, I got certified. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to join 24 Hour Fitness. I'm going to apply for a job. So I got a job as a trainer at 24 Hour Fitness and instantly noticed that was just a sales job. They gave me this phone book of leads that were marked like hot lead, warm lead, cold lead. And you just need to cold call all of these people. They've got gym memberships. They're not coming in. They bought training before. I called 7 people. I was like, the last dude I spoke to yelled at me. He's, I'm in the hospital. I told you guys to take me off your call list. I'm dying. Leave me alone. I was like, dude, I felt so bad. So I told the boss, I was like, you know what, man, the fitness manager, there was a bunch of other trainers that got hired at the same time as me. They're all like on these calls. I'm like, I came here to help people and like train them. I'm gonna find a different way to get clients. And he's like, no, you have to do this. I was like, I don't want to do that. Give me some time. If I don't get clients, then cool, fire me or I'll quit. But I'm not cold calling people. I just don't like that. So all I did, man, is I just talked to people in the gym. I would hang out at the front desk and someone that I'd seen come to the gym that was just walking on the treadmill, watching the news, just hating life. Oh, I have to be here. I was like, hey man, what you doing? Getting on the treadmill, watching the news again? Just kind of shame him a little bit. Like, why? I'm like, doesn't that suck? Like, you don't like it, right? Look, I got some free time. Let's go do a workout real quick. He's like, oh. I'm like, come on, dude, let's just do it. And then just show them some basic shit. And people would just hand me their credit card, right? Or I get on the treadmill next to that guy who's been the same weight for months and just hates being there and just like stare at him. Like, what are you doing? Like, you want to race? Like, just break the ice. I'm like, dude, let's get you off this fucking thing. Let's go actually do something that works.
Yeah.
So I was signing up clients right and left. And then the bosses are like, how did you do that? I didn't become a salesperson. I just talked to people.
Yeah.
And I became one of the top performing trainers in the company, which 24 Hour Fitness at the time was one of the biggest fitness companies in the world. So I was there for quite a few years and did over 10,000 sessions, one-on-one sessions, just completely burnouts, like 7, 8, 9 people a day, 6 days a week. And I had this
That's a
master
lot.
plan where I had this master, it's an hour. Those are
Yeah.
different stories and personalities and struggles and people.
That's
Personal training,
exhausting.
it's, yeah, you're just listening to people complain about bullshit and God, I don't care. I don't.
The way personal training sessions a lot of times break down is it's basically a counseling session. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
A lot of shit comes out and it's like, all right, how do I redirect this and keep you focused on what we're doing, but still like to keep in mind that that stuff they're talking about is totally relevant to their overall health at the same time. So it is exhausting.
Yeah, very exhausting. I'd have a woman crying about her husband dying of cancer, and then the next person complaining about having to wait 5 minutes for a bagel at Starbucks or something. I'm like, and then Monday, I'm so exhausted. I'm like, so how was your weekend? You already asked me that 3 times today. Are you okay? I was like, oh God. So my
No.
master plan was like, yeah, like midday break and crush a workout. And I was so burnt out and fatigued. And yes, exercise improves your energy. I just couldn't do it. So there's this big walk-in closet. I would just take a nap in there or go home and eat an entire box of cereal and just be like, I don't want to go do this anymore. So some clear signs there. So one day, regional managers and CEOs came into the trainer office and they're like, hey, congratulations. You made top 50 trainers in the entire company. So there's probably 7 or 8 thousand trainers in the company at the time, followed by what would you like? I was like, oh, I have like options. Like, yeah, sure. What do you want? Good job. Because I was bringing in consistent revenue. My resign rate was great. The session quality was good. I was capped out constantly, couldn't do any more consultations or anything. So I was about to go to Europe for a couple of weeks. I was like, how about a week's paid vacation? I haven't had that yet. And they laughed at me and slid me a $25 Starbucks gift card across the table. And they could see I was pissed. I was like, I don't want that. And they're like, oh, we'll give you a t-shirt. I was like, I got a fucking t-shirt. I went home. I was pissed, man. I was like, man, all that money. I bring in $15,000 in C3.
Yeah.
So Alex McMahon, you know him.
Mm-mm.
He was in Jason's Phillips group. You would recognize him. He's actually the one that brought me into Jason's group. He was like, dude, you've been ready to do this on your own. Just do it. So I pulled the trigger. So I had 19 clients at the time. And I told all of them, like, hey, I'm out. I'm going to go to a small personal training studio. And 17 of them said, cool, I'll go with you. So I
Yeah.
just started a business overnight. I was like, oh, wow, wildly successful overnight.
That's all I had to do. Shit.
Yeah, I was like, nah, I just let fear hold me back forever because I think it was kind of went back to being poor and homeless. Man, I didn't have a job to go back to that. It's just fear. So, long story short, I created hybrid models of online and in person, and then eventually in 2017 went fully online. And since then, I've scaled. I've got a team of coaches and assistant sales reps, that kind of stuff. ups and downs along the way, but each and every year it's been a little bit better. That's about it.
Yeah. So when, at what point did we meet? Where were you in that process?
I was just getting online because that's crazy, man. That was probably like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just getting online because I was in person, online, hybrid. And I joined that business group that we were in, that mentorship, to learn how to do things online more. And I'll be honest, I got a lot out of it, but it was a more just a kind of like motivation and not real strategy.
Yeah, definitely was that. What was I going to ask? I had something good and I forgot. Oh, so at what point did you kind of did you know your niche market right away, or did you have to kind of work through that? Because like you train exclusively men for right?
Yeah. Maybe we'll have for every 20 guys, we'll have one or two females.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a struggle, honestly, for a while to be like, who do I serve best? Because being a personal trainer was just like whoever was in the gym, right?
yeah.
But going online, it's okay, I need like a target audience. And then just the way you have things set up as a business online, it's just a lot more efficient to speak to one type of person and their problems and their struggles because it's things that you've gone through personally. I can't relate to a woman who has PCOS, for example, right? Yeah, that took a minute, but at the same time, I was reading and got involved with some kind of more literature and groups just around masculinity and how it's dwindling and men's health is really taking a dip, testosterone levels at an all-time low and whatnot.
What were you looking at? Do you remember?
I read The Way of Men by Jack Donovan.
Yeah, didn't you say you know him or you used to live
Yeah,
near him or something like that?
yeah, both. So I read that and got involved with him and his groups for a while. Weird story. Actually, my friend gave me that book. He's like, hey, dude, this guy just wrote this book. It's like groundbreaking. And he lives here in Portland because I was living in Portland at the time. And I read it and we met up one evening at a bar to have dinner. And I gave him the book back. So, man, that was crazy. I just read it. And then instantly, Jack Donovan and these guys walked in. I was like, whoa, this is weird. And they started coming into my gym. So, yeah, we just started becoming friends and we started doing like ritual and stuff together out of just land and things like that. We still collaborate. We do some YouTube content and stuff like that together sometimes. But yeah, so I read that and I was like, okay, this is something that men really need to hear. And a lot of guys are really struggling mentally and physically. And I relate to that. So I've been there. If I walked it, then why can't I help people overcome it? So it's usually guys in their 40s who have just neglected their health for the sake of building a career and they're overweight. They've tried and lost weight multiple times and regained it. Their testosterone's low. They don't have any energy. So, yeah, I've been there. So it's the same thing, right? I can't stand like a 20-year-old life coach, or I can't relate to women's problems. I can maybe understand them in terms of like physiologically what's happening, but I can't really connect with a female on that, right? Yeah, that's why I decided to work with guys who struggle with things I used to struggle with.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. You mean you can't just identify with something and then all of a sudden like it all works out, right?
Yeah, I guess 2025 you can. Or no, up until 2025. That stuff's over, I think, now that Trump's won. So,
Yeah, you can't even say it anymore. You go to jail, right?
yeah, yeah.
So just training men, what's because we've talked a little bit about the frustrations of coaching, and you've done a way better job than I have at actually building a very successful business. And I struggle to do parts of what you're doing for sure. We've talked about frustrations and stuff like that. What's frustrating about your biggest frustrations, either getting clients, like the sales process, or coaching? What are your frustration points with men?
Yeah, that's a good question because there's a lot and you quickly realize that you have to have thick skin. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to deal with a lot of stubbornness from men. You're going to get a lot of people lying to you. And that sounds like all negative stuff, but it just comes with the territory. And you have to understand that a lot of guys, when they finally, I would even say, build up the courage to speak to somebody and talk about potentially getting help with something they've struggled with a long time, just that for a lot of guys is a massive step forward, right? So there's a lot of fear and limiting beliefs around that for them. And then if we do, let's just say where someone has applied for coaching or we're communicating with somebody and we finally do a consultation and things go great, once this is a sales related topic, but once it comes down to committing, all these stories and stuff start reemerging, right? And it's part of the game, but you really see through that where it's like a good, I hate the word salesperson, but a good coach, if you're a good coach, you can sell and vice versa. A good coach would be able to help navigate that conversation to help the person make the best decision for themselves and challenge them a little bit. So you're going to get lied to, you're going to get a lot of rejection, you're going to get a lot of flaky people who just, for you, this is a passion, right? As the coach or as the business owner, it's the reason you wake up every day. It's something you think about all day, every day, and you're constantly working on and have been for years. For a lot of guys, this idea of getting in shape is just kind of like this vague thing that's been kicking around in the back of the skull for a decade or two, right? So it's to reach in and help them realize, like, hey, man, the fact that you haven't taken action on this is drastically impacting your life in every aspect, right? You don't have the energy, your libido is tanked, your kids don't see the leader and role model that they need to see. You don't have energy to play with your kids. Your health is deteriorating. You'll probably die young. Not to mention, your kids are also following in your footsteps. You've got overweight teenagers because they see dad just laying on the couch after a long day and not being active. You don't get the respect you deserve at work. You don't like what's in the mirror. Your clothes don't fit anymore. You're constantly uncomfortable. You don't realize it because it's your norm. You've been dealing with it forever. But this just idea of I should get into shape has just been an idea, or is it really something that you want to work towards? So you really have to have those like challenging conversations with guys to help them realize this isn't just about losing 30 or 40 pounds. This is about fixing your fucking life, right? Your entire life, living longer and impacting the people around you as well. Like a lot of guys, their career opportunities open up when they start walking, becoming a walking example of like strength, discipline, and consistency, right? So having those conversations can be challenging. And then just as a coach, I think really more than anything, the mindset stuff, it's all mindset. We do a good enough job to where we only take on the people who are the right fit. So it's not like a huge stress for us as coaches to take on the people that we accept because we've had the conversations and we've made sure we're a right fit before we even offer them to work with us. But sometimes people slip through the cracks, or when you really dig into nutrition with some folks, you open up this box and you're like, oh, wow, you've got this terrible relationship with food in your body. And then you're the counselor. Dude, yeah, the training's there and that's awesome, but we really need to work on this right now.
Yeah.
And that I've lost sleep over clients who I'm like, damn, like this person is really just, they need like a therapist. And
Yeah.
I've even in the past told clients like, hey man, we'll continue this maybe after 3 months of you speaking to a therapist about your relationship with food in your body because it's incredibly unhealthy and it would be irresponsible of me as a coach who wants to see you succeed to pretend that I can help you with this. Now we can get through to people with mindset, right? But if it's like a deep psychological issue, they're going to have to either pay us a lot more money to deal with that, or they should just go speak to somebody who specializes in it, right?
Yeah, and that's a hard one because I hate to turn you away, but this is out of my scope of practice here, man. And it's like even me with the masters in psych, like I can see these things, but it's I've done the same thing where I'm like, listen, I'll keep working with you only if you go and get signed up with a counselor for this issue, and I'm not going to talk to you unless you do that. And I've lost a couple people because of that. And yeah, but yeah, it's hard because, and I'll die on this hill. And it's a lot of it's my personal background is in psychology, but I really think that as far as training and mindset psychology, like the whole point of what we're doing as coaches is behavior modification. So to do that and ignore psychology, you can only white knuckle so far before the wheels are going to just fall off and you're going to revert. And that's not the goal. So yeah, to focus on just training, it doesn't work. So
Yeah, I always say it's a lot more than just sets, reps, and macros,
yeah,
right? And maybe that's at the forefront of our successes with health and fitness. You have to train, you have to eat. But there's this other 23 hours of the day that if a coach isn't focusing on what's going on outside of the gym, then they're not doing their full service. Ultimately, I believe that true coaching comes down to authentic connection between the coach and the client to create the impact we're trying to create on an individual basis. So if you have someone tossed into a massive group and you're like, all right, everyone, here's the program, here's the macros to hit, people can just Google that shit.
Yeah.
right?
And with Chat GPT, this is what I've been telling people. Like when I get on calls with them, I'm like, listen, if you just want a training program, just take your demographics, put them into Chat GPT, tell them to act like a coach that you like, and spit out a 12-week program. It'll fucking do it, man. It's scary. So it's
Yeah.
not about like you write great programs, I can write decent programs, but it's about a lot more than that. That's if you're just signing up for just a program, you can get that for free, you know?
Yeah, there's since AI is really emerging. I don't know if you've seen, I've seen a lot of these people like coaching's dead. AI is taking over. I'm like, AI can't actually coach you, right? They can
No.
write a program, they can write a nutrition plan, which one literally does not meet you where you're at, which is incredibly important,
Yeah.
right? If you don't meet someone where they're at and you just throw random stuff at them, they're not going to adhere to it for the most part for very long. But it's connection, it's accountability and support. And ChatGPT is not going to provide any of that,
No,
right?
it can't. And it can't teach you how to apply it in real time. So when you're motivated right now in the sales call is fine, but just speaking personally, my struggles between 8 and 10 p.m. when I'm fucking hungry. And
Right.
if I, and like I left to my own devices without somebody to check in with me and work with me on it, like I'll just do whatever. I'll eat an entire box of ice cream and cereal before I go to bed. So that was 3,000 calories and I didn't need it.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing that, like what are people that have a hard time with this doing? And
Yeah,
how to,
exactly.
yeah, so you need the coaching, you need the application and the support, or it doesn't work.
Yeah, support and any reasonable coaching service, I think, would have some sort of community with the clients as well. So you're in that band of brothers who share common goals and ambitions and share ideas. And yeah, we're having these conversations. It's not, okay, did you hit your macros and did you do 10K steps? So you did your workouts? Okay, cool, good job. We're having real meaningful conversations about how this is starting to positively impact the rest of their life and how to take these disciplines that we're learning and apply it elsewhere. And we're also talking, yeah, just mindset and relationships, health, wealth, and yeah, so much more than just what ChatGPT can offer. Yeah, interesting stuff.
So what's your personal training like? I know you're all over the place with stuff you've done with Muay Thai and power or strongman and all the kinds of stuff that you've done. What is your training that you're doing now?
So I just stopped the strongman stuff. It was interesting. I'm sure you can relate. You've got lots of hip replacements and vertebrae and stuff. But honestly, people always wait till you're 40 type of thing. I was like, whatever. And I still, sometimes I train like I'm 20 still or whatever. But yeah, once I crossed 40 and I was doing some strongman competitions, I was like, man, I'm not getting out of bed feeling good. And I've got this central nervous system fatigue almost chronically, just wasn't recovering my like workout hangovers. And a younger person, we just need to eat more calories and sleep better and the ice bath. No, dude, I just need to understand that I'm 40 and I can't do this very often. I've really changed my training style. So right now I do typically 3 full body days of bodybuilding style. And then just I love Muay Thai, so that's my cardio. I hate like the elliptical or going for a run or something. So I walk a lot, but yeah, I'm doing probably more Muay Thai than I should right now, but I don't want to be the fat white guy when I get to Thailand. So I'm training Muay Thai right now 8 or 9 times a week.
Oh, wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. And some of those sessions, evening classes are harder and sparring and stuff, or just like pad conditioning. And then morning classes, it's technique. So it's light cardio in the mornings typically. Yeah, I'm doing double days and then or weightlifting and Muay Thai in the evening. So yeah, so I'm pretty minimal effective dose with my lifting. I'm still using progressive overload, still going hard, but what I've really found with myself and anyone who deals with a lot of stress, and especially guys in their 40s, is a minimal effective dose with lifting, right? So I'm oftentimes just one or two top sets, just one or two. And if I can get the same benefit, if not more, honestly, from doing that with, say, 5 or 6 different movements every other day or every 2 or 3 days, why would I go and stress my nervous system more? It's not really about the muscles, it's the nervous system, right? More than I need to if I'm not getting more benefit, right? Because I've got life stresses, I've got like training recovery stress, I've got Muay Thai stress. So if I can stimulate and recover from a minimal effective dose and actually feel good and like actually look better because I'm actually recovering, then why not do less? A lot because less is more oftentimes, especially as you get older. So it's about training smarter and not necessarily harder. And just to be clear, I am like being like a retarded maniac with those sets. But it's not a lot. It's cool. That was an awesome top set. And I'm probably not going to get more out of doing a third or a fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have conversations like this within CrossFit and CrossFitters and other gyms and stuff like that, where it's here's your total volume is this. And you have to trade things for other things and learn how to modulate the volume and the intensity in order to not kill yourself. And they're like, no, we can do another EMOM. We can do more. We can do another AMRAP. We can do more. And it's like, you're going to break. You're going to break. I'm telling you, I've done it and it's not worth it. It's not fun. And even if you look at Westside Barbell, the best power lifters on the planet, like they understand that you can't do a max effort day back to back like they do Monday and Friday usually on a classic conjugate split. Like they have 72 hours of recovery between max effort and in between they have a whole lot of volume, but it's not the same. And dynamic effort days are high intent or high volume and lower intensity submaximal loading. Like they're not doing heavy destroy yourself every day. That's smart people don't do that.
Yeah, there's a point of diminishing returns. And a lot of time there's a scale of things like that minimal effective dose to point of diminishing returns. If I can get benefit here and recover well and feel good, why would I try and live up here and feel like crap and not recover well?
Yeah.
That fatigue accumulation for me has always been the biggest thing. And yeah, you can train yourself to adapt more, but there is a breaking point.
And then the question is why? And like, why are you doing this? And for me, when I was training like that, where it was like just stupid and irresponsible, and it was like 2 hours in the gym per session, and maybe two of those a day, and it was like heavy CrossFit competing, and it was like I look back and I'm like, why were you doing that? And it was like I just had to beat the shit out of myself, so I felt like worthy of who I was. It was such an identity piece for me at the time, whereas like I have to do this. And then if I don't do it, I'm losing a step and I'm going to be behind and then everybody's going to forget about me and that kind of shit. And it was just so many just nonsense stories playing in my mind where it's once I understood or it basically was taken away from me, you can't train this volume anymore. And then all of a sudden, hey, my Olympic weightlifting actually got way better. And like my all-time snatch was like 250, 255. And I didn't hit that until I was done with CrossFit and then only trained Olympic weightlifting like twice a week. And I was
Mhm.
like, how is this even a thing? And it was like, oh, I'm really dumb. Like that,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
I didn't start like I was shocked at when I reduced my frequency and volume, but kept my intensity or up the intensity, but just less frequently with less volume. I was shocked at how much more muscle I built, how much better I felt, and how much better I looked and even performed. And I can be in and out of the gym in 45 to 60 minutes, like 3 or 4 days a week and look and feel fantastic. But if I did like a 5 day week bodybuilding split or something like that, like I feel terrible. I actually feel like I get smaller doing that.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that. And then also, I would say you're busy with your job and like planning a move and stuff like that. And then with cops, I look at, all right, you have to do more than just train in the gym. You have to be proficient with firearms. Grappling and jujitsu is to me non-negotiable. So you've got all these other points that you need to train too. So now, is it appropriate for you to train an hour in the gym 5 days a week? Probably not. Like you're not going to be able to do all the training you need to and have family and home life and that kind of stuff. You can't do it. So you have to figure out how to fit all of the total life stress volume, like you said, into the mix and understand that as well.
Yeah, on paper, this grand idea of training all the time looks great, but that's really often neglected. And just regular guys, cops, firefighters, there's multiple facets of what you have to do in order to operate for your job. So imagine you have to chase an assailant or get in a fight, and you're like, dude, it's my recovery day. It's like leg day today or something. It's like, it just doesn't work. You have to be able to, yeah, verbal de-escalation skills, firearm skills, grappling skills, striking skills, situational awareness. It's a lot going on. And if you're overtraining for the sake of just being stronger when you can be as equally strong, if not stronger, by training less. Yeah, it would make sense to maybe dial it back and focus on some other areas of your job. I think that's a great way for you and what you do in firefighters is the way that you guys train is different than someone who just wants to look better and get a little bit stronger to where you can make it applicable. It's more specific to your job. And I think it would definitely make it more interesting too, right? Where you're not like, oh, I'm just doing chest day to day.
Yeah, there are elements of it where it's like, all right, you have to be able to bench press, but how does it apply? And it's really it's like coaching a grappler, like a wrestler. And it's the same. You need the aerobic piece, you have to have that glycolytic piece, but you also need maximal strength. And how does it all kind of accumulate It's an interesting thing. One of the biggest things though is like what you said initially, like your nervous system and your nervous system recovery, because that's when you make errors. That's when you get hurt on the job, is when your nervous system is just overtaxed. And then if you're talking about shift stress, the stuff we do, the stuff we see, and then the fact that we don't sleep on normal hours, even day shifts is a mess. And that's the easiest one. So your nervous system can only take so much beating. And that's where I see some guys like social media personalities is like cops and military guys that are just like, you can't train too hard for a job that can kill you. It's unless the training's going to kill you. Like, then go take a nap, go to sleep. That's like when you're talking about your training and how stressed you were with 9, 10 clients a day. I took a nap in a closet. That's cops, right? So it's like
Right.
you're fried. Maybe you shouldn't work out today. You should just go to sleep.
Yes, sometimes the thing that's supposed to make you stronger makes you actually weaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do a grueling workout because you think you're beast mode or something, and then you've got to go lock up criminals or chase criminals or solve issues, domestic issues,
Or
and you're
even just
fatigued, you're fried.
Yeah, or even just drive around on shift without falling asleep and crashing your car.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked as a bouncer in a strip club for 7 years while I started out personal training. And yeah, my training was a little bit different then. It was like escort techniques and some striking and jujitsu. I also needed to be strong. And yeah, we communicated with the Portland police a lot because we have to call them for stabbings and theft and drugs and stuff like that. And it was interesting talking to them sometimes because they're pretty friendly. Like, all right, you guys are here when this happens. Like, we show up after the fact. So it was just cool, like chatting with cops. But yeah, some of them I knew from like the MMA gyms that I trained at. And I could tell it's like, dude, I saw you at morning class and you're like working tonight still. I'm here too, but I went home and I took a nap. But I saw you get in your squad car after training. So you've just been driving around for 12 hours or something. Dude, this guy is tired.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being in situations where you might have to like, yeah, actually protect your life being that tired.
Yeah, the protecting your I don't want to say that's not as that is a big deal, right? That's obviously number one priority, but at the same time, it's like you you really need to have good decision making skills. And when you are so fatigued and so worn down, like your decision making just goes in the toilet. So it's like I only have one option that I can access in my brain functioning, and that's going to be it. And it's like, why didn't you do this one or this one? So I don't know. I didn't think about it because I had slept 3 hours the night before and 2 hours the day before that, and no hours the day before that.
Yeah, man, that's wild. Yeah, I always thought, man, I'd probably be a pretty good cop, but I don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to deal with some of it now. And now the liability is so much like everybody's radar is just liability. And
Man, we could talk all day. I could tell you crazy stories. Yeah, whatever, man. Yeah. No, I didn't bring anything to the table necessarily. I was actually, there was a family viewing our house to potentially buy it. So I was sitting in the shade across the street under a tree because I thought they'll only be here for 20 minutes, but they're here for an hour and a half. So I was like, I gotta get in my office. So I had to tell him like, hey, excuse me, I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. So I kick him out. So I
no,
wasn't prepared to bring coffee.
you could have texted me, dude, we're gonna have to push it back. It's been no big deal.
Oh,
I hope it
yeah,
didn't
good.
cost you a sale.
No, they were here for over an hour. So
You think they were going through your stuff?
yeah, I doubt it. They were with an agent, a realtor. That would be funny though. But yeah, no, man, it's just cool to see people doing similar stuff and connect and yeah, chat about how people are doing things. I think it's necessary. A lot of guys, especially, are feeling lost in life and they don't know what to do about it. And I think a lot of guys don't even realize that there's actually help out there. There's a lot of guys who have walked that path and they're prepared to help them get out of where they're at. And like I said, it's not just the weight, but it's like you being overweight is probably the core thing that's the source of your problems. But you always have to remember it's impacting the rest of your life. And it's easy to forget that that's your norm and that you're so used to it. Like when I was 320 pounds and I was just breathing heavy and like sweating, just sitting there for no reason. If you would have asked me like, hey man, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, why? I'm fine.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't know. But all these little frustrations that you shove down and neglect and ignore, my belt's tighter. And then I'd get mad at the belt, not at myself. Or I'd always set myself up for failure when I decided to lose weight. I had bigger clothes that I just shoved to the side and then buy new clothes when I lost weight, but I'd keep them. I called it the fat side of my closet. I keep them because mentally I knew I'd need them again, right?
Oh, yeah.
All these little things that we tell ourselves that we don't let come to the surface. Because guys, we have this really awesome but also terrible ability to shove shit down and deal with it later or
Yeah.
never deal with it. And I
Right.
think if you go way back to why we have that, it's probably because, yeah, we're out hunting and you see your brother get impaled by a woolly mammoth's tusk or something, and you like there's no time to deal with it. You just have to move on. There's probably a lot of that just genetically in our DNA that we're just really good at just dealing with stuff and shoving it down. But when it comes to modern day, where we have these other issues where it's like your health and your weight, we can shove that down, but sooner or later it's going to come around and slap you in the face. There's a stubbornness that guys have that they won't allow these things to surface and talk about them because it feels weak, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I used to think I was a real tough guy, bar fights and just all this stupid shit, street fights. But I think it's a lot tougher. And this isn't one of those like male retreat things where you go and cry and hold each other because I hate that shit. But I think it's a lot tougher to come to terms with what you're dealing with and take ownership of your life situation and actually talk about it, right? And let those things emerge and then actually work on them instead of just shoving it down. A lot of guys think it's tough just to shove shit down and just deal with it later or never. But it's actually a lot tougher to let it come out and deal with it, take ownership and work on it.
Yeah, so what you're describing is like the process of compartmentalizing and suppressing, right? So if there's a mission that needs to be accomplished, like we can take whatever comes our way and all right, compartmentalize it. I'll deal with this later, suppress it for now. And then where it comes into becoming problematic is when that suppression becomes repression, I think is the term. I think I'm classifying that the right way. But and then you just never deal with it. So then it starts coming out like the shit's gonna come out. It's do you want to bring it out and deal with it in the light of day yourself on your own terms, or do you just want to wait until it does it on its terms? And that usually comes with like alcohol abuse, like cheating on your spouse, maybe a combination of the two. Usually, what else? Get it like getting way overweight, getting mad at the belt. Then you're talking about symptoms of the problem, but you're refusing to look at the problem. And
Mhm.
that is also a very male thing to do because it's you just you and but you don't really know how to do it. It's I know I put this away. I don't want to get it back out. That hurts. That hurts my ego. And
Mhm.
when it makes sense that you don't want to talk about it, but it doesn't change the fact. Does avoiding it feel better, or does staying shitty feel better, or dealing with it not staying like feeling shitty? I should say.
Yeah, they're both hard and
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but one keeps you the same, if not worse, and the other one like improves your situation. So it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. But you have to don't what was your experience like? Did you have to hit a bottom? Did you hit a bottom where you're like, this is it, this is the end of the road, I'm turning this around?
Yeah, a few times. I rock bottom was a trampoline, and every time I hit it, that trampoline felt like more powerful. But yeah, eating that dog food in a meth house.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. And I have an older brother. He's 10 years older than me, and he's always been like a great kind of mentor. And I remember telling him about that, and he was like, we had a very stern talking with me. So I got my shit together for a little while, but these old habits, that lifestyle, that's another reason I had to leave that punk rock lifestyle and the metal and stuff is you're just constantly around that stuff, right? It attracts the most degenerates possible. It's a subculture. And like I said, there's some great people there, but if you're around it constantly, you're going to get sucked back in sooner or later. I got my shit together and then yeah, just I remember one time stepping on the scale and seeing over 300 and a tear dropped. I'm like, fuck, man, this is terrible. I knew I was big, but that's pretty big. And like we're just talking about, just kept shoving it down. That's not a big deal. Like it'll be fine. I'll lose weight soon. I'll do it again. I'll lose weight again sometime. Never happened. Then I finally saw 320. I was like, all right, like screw this. So that was like a real rock bottom. At the same time, lo and behold, like you just mentioned, when you suppress those things, they come out in other ways. Terrible relationship, had a divorce. And it was my behavior for the most part. Those were my probably my two biggest rock bottoms for sure. Yeah.
Now, when you go through with your coaching and your like your consults, especially, can you tell right away if a dude like you talked about taking the right people on? Can you tell if all right, this guy's at his bottom, he's a good candidate, or nah, he is not there yet, he might not be.
Yeah, you have to dig a little bit, right? Get into why people want to accomplish their goal. And a lot of guys have this barrier up. They're not ready to talk about it. But if you keep asking the right questions, you will find that pain point. You will find the true thing that they're trying to resolve, right? Not just abs or taking the shirt off at the pool this summer, right? That's cool stuff to work towards, but it's too surface level. It's too shallow, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look better. I love looking better, right? I want to take my
Yeah.
shirt off with confidence too. But if you dig a little bit further, you will realize with most guys, not everybody, they want respect. They want to be seen as a better leader. They want their wives to be more attracted to them, right? They want their kids to see a strong role model, and they don't feel that way. So you have to help guys connect these dots a lot of the times where most people's fitness goals are just a surface level fitness goal. I should probably lose 30 pounds. Cool. Why is that important? Keep digging until you find that true reason. And that's where people, whether it be with signing up or just realizing, damn, this really is, sometimes those conversations are just good enough to where they're like, you know what? I've realized a lot of things on this call today, and thank you. And then you're like, cool, maybe you don't need me. They usually come back and like, so what should I do? Like having the right conversations with people really helps people a lot. Just asking the right questions, just being curious, I think is a really good way to be as a coach and not like this dictator. Just be curious.
Yeah, because the bottom line is you're just asking questions and building the relationship and just saying, hey, like I've been where you've been. I might be 1, 3, 5 steps ahead of you. I can tell you how to get from where you're at to where I'm in the area of. Like, that's pretty much it. Nobody's got any ultra secret sauce. It's just, hey, this is where I'm at. If you would like to join me up here and move your aim from here to here, like I can show you that path. That's it.
Yeah.
So be curious, be a good dude, and just help people. It's really all it is.
Yeah, there's no special magic. So maybe strategies that you have, methods and stuff like that, but there's no secrets. They all have, everyone, all coaches have various methods, but they come down to the same principles. If
Yep.
they're, so that's all
Yeah.
it is.
Cool, man. I could probably talk to you all day. I know you got a meeting coming up, and I got to go pick my kids up here in about 15 minutes. So,
Yeah, all good.
man, thanks so much. Where can people find more information about you and your programs and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter, iron_will_PT, and website is ironwillpt.net. Yeah.
Love it. All right, dude. I'm sure I will hassle you on the internet for some random question or try to send something funny to you or whatever. So I'll be in
Anytime,
touch
man.
soon.
I always enjoy it. Yeah. Thanks for the invite. It's been good to see you.
You too, man. Good catching up.
All right, dude. Take it easy.
Later.
Yeah.